Hello, welcome to Discovering the World of Natural Health. I'm your host, Claiborne Holtzman. It's your life. Why shouldn't it be one that you thoroughly enjoy and are happy with? What's going on? Why are we having so much illness, sickness? What's it all about? Was it started in a chemistry lab? Was it something that came because we didn't take care of ourselves and we put ourselves in harm's way? The bottom line on all of the things that we need to understand, in my opinion, is that we need to look and see what are the God-given recommendations for us to do for certain situations, illness, and when our bodies, our mind, our soul, and our spirit are not what they're supposed to be, but they're in the process of becoming. I challenge you to look into the natural realm. I challenge you to look into the Garden of Eden and what it was all about, and why it was the protocol for God's children, and why He made it available for them to have health and be in good health as they had fellowship with their Heavenly Father. And can we get back some of this in our lives today? Can we become whole again? And what we will discuss today, we'll discuss some of the things that cause the negativity. What are we not doing that we need to do to give our, and what should we not be doing to give ourselves better health? I'm going to kind of reiterate a little bit. The last couple of weeks we have talked about aromatherapy, and I had all my little markings and book things here, and I want to share with you this information. This book can be purchased at Remedy This Naturally, 1140 Bienvenue Road. But aromatherapy for everyone. There is something, ability of the herbs and the plants that have a positive effect for those that are willing to check it out and find out what it is that they should make available to themselves. We talked about the different herbs. We talked about lemon. We talked about the things that are coming for Christmas and those that are available in the spices. And it's just something, aroma of baking, of, I just share this with you a little bit because, we're having to have virtual meetings of getting together and helping one another. And, we need to know that there is within God's kingdom the power we need to understand and give ourselves usefulness when we're in the middle of stuff, okay? Question being, let's just ask a few questions as we get into this. Are you suffering? And I'm reading back on the back of the book right here. I am reading about that. And the question about aromatherapy for everyone. The questions come about, in other words, when you look at the cover on the front and the back, something has to say, I got your attention. Now let me look into this and see if it has something to do to help me have a better quality of life, and do with something that doesn't have the side effects. But please, with caution, you should approach anything you're unfamiliar with or anyone talking to you about something. Find out if it can be of assistance to you in having a better quality of life by using what came from the Garden of Eden. Now, questions being asked for aromatherapy for everyone. Are you suffering from troublesome issues such as acne, anxiety, depression, muscle aches, respiratory problems, or insomnia? It's big business now about, you can't sleep, you gotta someone that was sharing with me, they said, Claiborne, when I go to bed at night, I take a pill. When I get up in the morning, I take a pill. The one that I take at night is to help me go to sleep. One I take in the morning help me wake up and be able to face the day and not be groggy. So I have these things that I do with the medicines so I can be able to, I guess you say, trick your body into being what it needs to be for the day, night, and special occasions. But are you looking for an air freshener, antibacterial spray, or after sun tonic without all those chemical additives? Now, plants themselves have, additives in there. This part of the constitution of the herb to make it be able to be a disinfectant, to be able to be a tonic that you can use. Whatever the matter on hand may be, there is a good chance that aromatherapy can offer you a natural way to meet your need. Education, studying, learning, and I say one other, prayerful consideration is important. Aromatherapy for everyone, provides easy to understand information to help you understand how to choose and use essential oils that are right for you. You are your own doctor. You are the person that knows more than anybody else, or let's put it this way, you are the person that should know above all others how you feel, what it is that affects you, positively and negatively. You have that ability. This edition begins by discussing the foundations of aromatherapy. Where did it come from? What is the foundation of it? Touching upon the history of its practice and how this form of therapy works, it then introduces the reader to the aroma families and explains how to build an aromatherapy starter kit, basic aromatherapy recipes, and application methods of being able to use what you're learning. How to protect and store essential oils. It also provides an all-new handy reference guide that matches problems or needs to the essential oil that may be applied to you. Finally, it presents individual entries from 59 different essential oils, describing their origin, listing their therapeutic benefits and recommendations, and how to use them. I hold up a little higher you get. There you go. Aromatherapy for everyone puts the world of essential oils at your fingertips and includes full color photos, fun facts that will educate and delight. Whether you want to take control of your health and well-being or simply create a unique scent for your living space, this book can show you how to do so naturally and effectively. It's talking about creating an aroma. A lot of people today do not use a live tree, but use one that you plug up and shake out, and it's already pre-lit. So if you have that, you want to do that, then you want to get the feeling of being out in the woods, then get some pine oil, essential oil pine, and you can put it in a diffuser. You can actually just open up the canister and put it on some cotton balls, and this will help you to have that aroma there for your benefit. So check it out. Find out what it is that you want to be stimulated by and how you want to use the aromatics in your life. The other thing, there's just a simple little book, and it's called Bragg Detoxify Diet. There's a lot of things about Bragg. You may know Bragg apple cider vinegar that I will never forget my mom's reaction to my excitement of taking her and giving her some Bragg's apple cider vinegar to use on the greens. That Mom was a big cooker of greens, and she always loved putting vinegar on them. So when we gave her the new rendition of apple cider vinegar, because she was taking some of the other just made from, other than apples, it may have been vinegar made from corn. But she came to me and she said, "Claiborne," she said, "that is the best vinegar I've ever had. But I don't know why they don't strain that trash out of it, because it takes me a few minutes to get the trash out of it." And basically that is what's known as the mother in the apple cider vinegar there, and that is what you're actually paying for when you purchase it, with the therapeutic benefits you can get from the apple cider vinegar. One of the things that I really liked, and I pulled from this, and I don't know how about you, but since March of 2020, I have gone back and started studying again about naturopathy, aromatherapy, herbs, what they can do. What is it that we need to be doing as individuals and as a people for wellness instead of sickness? What do we need to do? How are we going to get past the hurdle of pandemics, as it's referred to? My lifetime has never seen anything. We've always, growing up, that, in the country, if someone had chicken pox or smallpox, you just had a party and you put all the kids together so everybody get it and have it and be done with it. Right or wrong, it's being debated. I didn't know it was anything any different than that because it was kind of like that herd immunity. And, when you take in, maybe, this may be or may not be a way of saying it properly, but when we get the vaccine and we're giving it to everybody, the worst case scenarios that need it first, then could that be described as herd immunity because we're all getting the same vaccine, so we'll all have the same inoculation against that? I don't know. What do you think? In my opinion, and this is from the opinion of Paul Bragg, he said, I believe that it's possible to live a perfect state of agelessness. Let's reason it out together. Every 3 months, you get an entire new bloodstream. So it is not the bloodstream that gets old. Every 11 months, every cell in the body has renewed itself. So you have practically a new body every 11 months. Every 2 years, you get an entirely new bone structure. So in 3 years, you can really born again, new life. The renewal process has taken place. Now, if you keep the body clean, purified by eating a diet that's continually keeping purification in the body, how can you get sick? How can you get old? The only thing you can kill you is a disease. Time cannot kill you. Some powerful thought there. Powerful thought. Mr. Bragg said, I have met in many years of travel hundreds of people, 100 and more years old. Their eyes were perfect. They had no hardening of the arteries, no blindness, no aches, no pain. These people lived in their early life on farms. They never ate refined, processed food, but they lived on foods that were close to nature. If these people had known that they could take and do some cleansing and detoxification along with that, couldn't it be something real to this about we were supposed to, because of God's love for his creation and making a place for man and woman to live in what's known as the Garden of Eden and changing it? I mean, the statistics that were given, every 3 months you can get an entire new bloodstream. So every 11 months, every cell in the body has renewed itself. So you can actually practically be a new person every 11 months. Every 2 years, you can get an entirely new bone structure. So in 3 years, you can really be born again. Starting over. I refer to this, and I don't think I've used this number before, but I always talk about that if we were in the Garden of Eden and given the right diet, we could live indefinitely. But we read in the Bible where people live to be 900 years old, or 900 years of age. And of course, the skeptics will scoff at these ages and say that they recorded time differently than we do now. Okay, suppose it was just 300, instead of 900. What about that? They will tell you it would be impossible to live to be 900. But they have not studied the people's habits. Can it make a difference what our habits are, what their habits were? They lived on foods that did not obstruct and clog the pipe system, the plumbing, where people have something called constipation. And this was the only thing that kept them alive. A clean body, free from clogging encumbrances, and obstructions. And that is exactly what this information that we learn from being involved in talking about and studying about the Garden of Eden. In other words, suppose there was a way of life that will keep the toxics flushing out of the body. Keep them going. Who knows? Maybe you and I could live to be 100. Comment. Remember that death is brought to the body when it is so saturated and bogged down with toxic poison that it can no longer function. Control the poisons, and you control your life. Strong statement. But even if half of it was true, would it interest you? I talk about this, and I agree with Dr. Bragg on this, that we once lived in a tropical paradise. Dr. Bragg said, in all of his research and study, I have come to the definite conclusion that man once lived in a Garden of Eden, and his diet consisted of raw and cooked fruits and vegetables. I believe that man of Eden ate many green-leaved vegetables. I believe he ate nuts and seeds. This is the diet I believe man lived in freedom of disease, and that he lived to be an old age of 900 years or more. Now, I want to clarify this whole statement. I will not be misunderstood. I believe the man lived in this tropical paradise, and that in no time did he have to worry about being cold. Yes, he lived unclothed and could lie down at night nude and sleep without any discomfort of being cold. This is a true state of man. But when we find this has to change because of the approach of the Ice Age. All over the world, temperatures were altered and varied many times by these ages. Man was then forced to live in colder climates. His selection and variety of fruits and vegetables was naturally reduced and limited. Now, allow me to repeat for the benefit of emphasis and to make it quite clear in your minds that while man lived in the tropical paradise on a diet of naturally grown fruits and vegetables, he was consistently detoxifying and purifying his body. In other words, he lived every day on a toxless diet, body purification and healing system. He lived for many, many years free from aches and pains and diseases, premature aging and senility. But when he left the Garden of Eden, it necessitated his venturing into different climates, whereby his diet was changed by necessity to eat of more grains, foods like barley, wheat, oat, rye, maize, and millet. He also learned to cultivate rice, lentils, and beans of all varieties, which he dried and stored for long periods of time, having his fruits and vegetable selection greatly reduced. not too much fruit and vegetables in frozen weather. He therefore turned to the killing of animals for meat and collected birds' eggs. Time he found he could domesticate animals like the cow, the goat, and the fowl. Not only did these provide him with readily meat to eat, but he also had fresh eggs, supplied, and wasn't long before he mastered the milking of the cow, the goat, and the sheep. And because of that, from the milk, he learned to make butter and cheese and other dairy products. So, with a preponderance of an alcohol, man was to slowly change his eating habits till his diet was one of heavily in starch and acids. Meat is very heavily in that very toxic acid known as uric acid. Meat is mostly protein and also carries in it visible and invisible fats. You know, it's got those waxy substance called cholesterol coming from the fat of the animal. Also the waste that was in circulation through the body at the time of the slaughter. Not to mention that many viruses and germs of various animal diseases. So it's kind of like we're building up, changing from this Garden of Eden to where we are, and we're ending up being in a toxic environment. Traveled over the world and studied the eating habits of people. You know, he started making comparisons. Let us take the Eskimo. You know, the Eskimo lives in a frigid Arctic, and his diet is almost exclusively animal flesh and the blood of animals and fish. His environment gives him no other recourse for survival other than eating heavily on meat products. A short span of life, and they are not particularly attractive people. They age prematurely, and in the latter part of their lives they suffer from stiff joints, bad livers, bad kidneys, and many instances of skin disease. Now, let us move down from the Arctic Circle into the countries like Lapland, Finland, Northern European countries. We find people using lots of meat, lots of fish, eggs, and bread. We get a crystal clear picture that what these foods do to these people. We are prematurely aging in these countries. We see the loss of sight, hearing, and general deterioration of the body by the time they reach 60. And many suffer from pyorrhea. Many have suffered their whole life with some nagging ailments such as bronchitis, asthma, skin diseases, and many other diseases, and being born with these diseases. Even going back to my life of having to overcome and outgrow asthma. We go on down and into the tropics and find that people do not know how to eat. That the original people, I spoke about the Garden of Eden, we find people in the tropics eating lots of pork, fowl, eggs, and white rice. In other words, although they live in the tropics, they have lost their instinct for living in the toxless diet, not getting impurification within the body, and not learning a healing system that corrects the negativity that we impose upon ourselves. We find lots of diseases among these people in the tropics. We find leprosy, which is one of the most deadly of all diseases. Okay, let's put a big N-O-W, capitalized N-O-W, now. We go into what we call the modern 20th century, civilized countries, and we're supposed to be living in one. And what we do find, people eat lots of meat, not only fresh meat, but all kinds of smoked and brine, which is concentrated salt going into the meat. Not only fresh meat, but all kinds, smoked and brine. Cured meats. We find the civilized people eat many products made from refined. We got the white sugar, white flour, white rice, and processed cheese. They're using over, and these statistics have changed since Paul Bragg wrote this book, but our 20th century folks, okay, and we're using chemical additives to color, preserve, and stabilize the foodless food. The worst crime of all against civilized man's food is the spraying of injurious insecticides, such as arsenic and many other powerful deadly chemicals. In this utter despair, when we see the teeth rotting in our head and those of our children, we start to put fluoride in the drinking water. Just change one negative to another negative, and doing it with man-made stuff. And oh, what a sick, broken down creature we're talking about, the man. He has hospitals, he has doctors, he has nurses, he has bacteriologists, pharmaceutical researchers, and chemists trying to do something to help him in his misery. In the United States, which is a representative country of those so-called civilized countries, 47 times every second. This is old news, folks. This is not new news. This is old news, and you can take these numbers and multiply them greatly. 47 times a second, a prescription is filled by a white-coated pharmacist or chemist at one of 56,000 chemist drug shops in the United States. And I don't know what it is now. It would not surprise me if we could double that amount. The staggering cost of those pink, violet, yellow, white, and green tablets, capsules, and lozenges, and ampoules in amounts over, at this time, $14 billion a year. Probably take these numbers and double them, 28 billion, you know? What Dr. Bragg is saying is that man is sick. And he ND doctor. Man is sick. Has been for a long time, and in my lifetime, it's gotten worse. And we're getting sicker. And we're looking for another magic drug to help us with the pandemic. But Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and let your medicine be your food. So what can we do in helping change us to a healthier, functional, less fearful individual? It is almost of total helplessness. And folks, just think about what's going on in the pandemic, and California yesterday just shut down again. If that's not helplessness, what is? No, don't get me wrong. I am not saying we're not in a pandemic and we got problems. What I am offering is, let's get back to the Garden of Eden, where man was supposed to be eating from the plants, where man was supposed to be eating the fruits, the vegetables, and only did man get into a dire situation, had to have a flood, get rid of everything. Vegetation wasn't there, and you're probably eating, sacrificing some animal. In the beginning, not only are the adults sick in body, but they're sick in the mind. And in these numbers, again, you can look them up and find out what it is now, but it's at this time, 30% of the hospital bed in our civilized countries are used up by people suffering from mental conditions. Nearly 1 out of 10 people, let's be more specific for that. Nearly 1 out of 10 children is born either a cripple or a retard. The insane asylums of the civilized world are packed to overflowing. This is a long way that man has come from the Garden of Eden, where he lived on the clean, purifying foods, enjoying perfect health, and many long years of happy life. Just trying to let you know Bragg talked about this decades ago. Decades. I want you to know I have no illusions that is any way left in the world that would be called a Garden of Eden. Man, if you want to be well and live long, must create his only Garden of Eden wherever he is. We've got to make it happen, folks. It's up to each one of us. Have a little garden spot. I mean, and then, doing this is stupid stuff like taking seeds away from us so we can't plant gardens. Doing stuff like making sure that we believe that our Creator wasn't God and taking God out of the equation. If we want to live and we want to survive and carry on more generations, then we're going to have to get back to the basics of the Garden of Eden. Where should I go from here? We cannot expect to have the health and vitality and the long life that our brothers and sisters enjoyed in the Garden of Eden. But we can, by careful control of our diet, purifying our bodies by flushing out our body's toxins that are causing us to suffer. Naturally, there will have to be a lot of compromises at this time in life. We have had many generations of evolution in eating an unbalanced diet. So now we began our journey back to the Garden of Eden, slowly and cautiously, getting back to the basics of what it's all about. The other thing, overeating is a problem. Some people eat as though they were going to do the hardest kind of physical labor. A sedentary person by habit and conditioning will get up in the morning, eat a hefty breakfast of cooked, dried cereal, ham and eggs, buttered toast, and a stimulating beverage like tea, coffee, or something like putting milk in it, which helps us to have mucus. No animal except man ever drank milk after they were weaned. I do not approve of milk drinking in adults, raw or naturalized. That is Mr. Bragg speaking, what he said, because he says the dairy products are what causes to have the mucus and the sinus congestion. True or not? You need to hear so you make a decision. He says, then after they get to breakfast, they go to an office or store and sit or stand around. They will usually have a mid-morning snack, and at noon, eat a heavy lunch, bread and meat and dessert, and again a beverage like tea or coffee, or soft drinks, more than tea and coffee now. In the mid-afternoon, more snacks and beverages. Then home for the biggest meal of the day, consisting of meat, potatoes, and bread, dessert, and a beverage. And to top it off, while watching TV, we'll snack again. This kind of daily habit is making tens of thousands of sick people and making them exhausted people, sending them to hospitals and to an early grave. You say, we're doing it to ourselves? Dr. Bragg believes so. The average person living the ordinary inactive life cannot possibly burn this tremendous amount of food. So what happens to people who eat this way? You know as well as I do that they are sick, half sick, most of their entire lives. They fill the chemist drugstores and mental institutions and old people's home and arrive early at the graveyard. Overeating is a vicious and dangerous habit, and most people overeat. They have been told that they must have regular meals at regular hours, and they believe this nonsense. They hardly have one meal down before they're putting another one in. They think that by this constant stuffing, they're keeping up their strength. They are doing the opposite. They're weakening their virtual or your vitality and their power. Why is that happening? Because by overeating, they are burdening their whole system. Also, their continual eating never gives the machinery time to repair or rest. And we're talking about our body being a machine with all the organs and the things that have their specific jobs to do. Reason I stress a 24-hour week fast is so vital that unclogging and cleansing out our system. Bragg believes that we need to cleanse, detoxify, and get rid of the toxins and poisons that are taking and overpowering us. He said, I see these overstuffed people every day of my life. Most of them suffer from chronic fatigue. They get up tired and go to bed tired. They push all kinds of stimulants into themselves to try and keep going. In civilization today, people take pep pills to keep going during the day and sleeping pills to try to get to sleep at night. And Dr. Bragg says, what a pitiful plight the average person gets himself into. And for people who talk about eating better, doing better, they get ridiculed. And we get bombarded with the TV, mailers, everything about what we should be putting into our body so we can, quote unquote, be healthy, be skinny, be bigger, one or the other. These are half-dead creatures who are always ready to say cruel things about those who want to take better care of themselves by constructive, conscious control of their bodies. What are you trying to do, lose weight? Come on. People like me are called fanatics, food cranks, health nuts, and the big producers of civilized, refined, and dead foods are largely responsible for those curt remarks about people who become virtually interested in good nutrition and natural hygiene. If living by the wholesome plan or nature in God Almighty is being a fanatic, then I lay claim to being the biggest fanatic in the whole world. I am zealous for my health, and I intend to protect it, and I draw my last breath. Those are the statement of Dr. Bragg. This is a reason why when you decide to make some changes, get away from things that you know are not good for you. Do you know that when you weren't doing them, you had a better quality of life and you were able to get around and didn't have the aches and pains? It is strictly a personal matter. It is not your relatives, in-laws, or outlaws. Tell only the ones who you are absolutely necessary to tell. The average person who stuffs 3 big meals a day in their stomachs think illness or premature death or something that no one can control. Says, these people I call unthinking dead people. They're so full of internal corruption. They're toxic, so filled with clogged arteries and just plain long stinking thinking. So, I don't know if this was helpful or not to you, but I know that the pandemic is telling me we're a sick society, and when we take and do things that are quote unquote supposed to help, but are we doing the things that will help? By putting into the body what it needs from the Garden of Eden. What was there? And what were the foods that after that happened, God said, look, if you're going to follow me around and then want to know what I want you to do, then here's the Levitical law, and let's lay it down as what people should eat and not eat, what we should drink and not drink, and then you can be a creation that the Creator is happy for. Other things, Dr. Sunshine, I want to talk about him for a little bit today. And we're needing our vitamin D, right? A little bit cloudy, so you might need to go to Remedy This Natural and pick you up some vitamin D. I like the D3. Dr. Sunshine specifically is, he's just great for us. Every tiny blade of grass, every vine, every tree, every bush, every flower, every fruit, and vegetable draws its own life from the solar energy. All things on earth depend, let's just back up. All living things on earth depend on solar energy for their very existence. This earth would be a barren, frigid place if it were not for the magic in the rays of the sunshine. The sun gives us light, and were it not for light, would be no you and me. The person who starved for the virtual rays of the sun, look half dead when you look at him because they had no sunshine. Help with the pigmentation. He is actually dying for the want of solar energy. Weak, ailing, anemic people are always sun-starved. And he says many people are sick simply because they're too or starved for sunshine. Not only that, let me just put this as what sunshine is. The rays of the sun are powerful genocide. As the skin imbibes more of these rays, it stores up enormous amounts of this germ-killing energy. The sun provides one of the finest remedies for the nervous person who is filled with anxiety, worry, frustration, stress, and strains. When these tense people lie in the sunshine, it is powerful rays give them what the nerves and the body are crying for, that is relaxation. Sunshine is a tonic, a stimulant, and above all, a great healer. As you bask in the warm sunshine, millions of nerve endings absorb the energy from the solar system and transform it into the nervous systems of the body. Take this experiment. Determine the value of sunshine in the matter of life and death. Find a beautiful lawn when the grass is like a green carpet. Cover it, small piece of that beautiful lawn with a small piece of wood or piece of metal. Day by day, you will notice that the beautiful grass that is full of plant blood, chlorophyll, will start to fade and turns a sickly yellow and then tragically withers and dies. Death by sun starvation. And that is why liquid chlorophyll, if I plug any product today, it says, I can do it in the next 3 minutes. The same thing happens in your life without life-giving rays of sun. And when you fail to eat an abundance of sun-cooked foods, such as ripe vegetables and fruits, we must have the direct rays of the sun on our bodies, and we must eat at least 50% of the food that has been ripened by the sun's rays. When we eat fruits and vegetables, and we absorb blood from the plant, the rich nourishing chlorophyll in the solar system, and absorbed from the sun, and the richest and most nourishing food you can put in your body. Chlorophyll is liquid sunshine. So, get you some liquid chlorophyll from Remedy This Naturally. Drink it, especially when we have these cloudy, rainy days. Where do we go? Oh, got a little chlorophyll, exercise. I'll close my book. Okay, with Dr. Sunshine. He is the one that we need to make sure we get there. Liquid chlorophyll. Greens, gotta have the greens. Gotta have. If we want to maintain the body that was designed by God for the Garden of Eden. Maybe a little boring, maybe a little wishy-washy, maybe not understanding what I'm saying, but very simple. You and me got to change. We got to do what God wants us to do if we want to be happy, healthy, full of energy, and be able to carry on. And we can get rid of sickness because, one, we're not living on the Word. not doing the things we're asked to be done. And if we put in negative, we're going to get negative. We put in positive, we're going to get positive. If we put in healing, we're going to get healing. But most of all, if we put in that God's our authority and we need to go by it, we will be healed because we're putting things in a proper perspective. I'm your host, Claiborne Holtzman. Thank you for letting me ramble and share with you some things. And I hope God's Word will separate what was clutter from what you need to have the best quality of life you can have. And I pray for it for you and me. In Jesus' name, amen.